this is Rick Brandenburg for North Carolina State University and Turf Bugs and Rock and Roll. And I want to touch on a subject that really hit the turf news a couple months ago, and that's the use of generic products. And I've certainly talked about it quite a bit over the last few years and in my thoughts on it. And what happened a couple months ago, there were some post-patent or generic products that were used, and they did extensive damage, and of course really hit the social media, and a lot of people said a lot of things. And among them, some people were simply saying this is why I would never use a post-patent or generic product. And one of the things in our life, we know that trade names or brand names certainly are big. I mean, we call things Kleenexes and Band-Aids and Q-tips when that's not what they really are. That's just a brand name. And for the most part in my world, people, even when they use post-patent Talstar that's bifenthrin, they still refer to it as Talstar, and when they use the imidacloprid, they oftentimes still refer to it as Merit. So brand names and trade names get ingrained in our minds. Now, I've talked about in the past how we have a lot of questions about these products. Oftentimes they're less expensive, but how much research is behind them, all those sorts of things. And certainly people like myself, Fred Yelvert and Jim Kearns at NC State, we test some of these products. We don't test them all. And some post-patent generic products work very, very well, and that's a fact. And so in using them, sometimes you can save a few dollars. The question for a lot of you really isn't, will they work just as well, but what happens in those instances when they fail or they cause phytotoxicity or something like that. And that can happen with all products. I mean, we've seen it with the basic manufacturers. In fact, we've probably seen it more often simply because more acres get treated with their products. But this does happen. So the real answer that you need to have is, when something goes wrong, does the company come and stand behind their product, and do they try to make it right? And my only response to that is, you've got to know your companies, you've got to know your company's rep, you've got to talk to others and find out the reputation of these companies. And I certainly have seen instances with post-patent or generic manufacturers where they have stood behind their products. But these are decisions that you've got to make on yourself. I hate to see people putting messages on Facebook or on social media that just simply say, I never, I never, I never. And those same people may be depending on generic prescriptions to save their life. So take them case by case, look at the companies that produce them, look at their track record, and see what you can do. And don't always think that the brand name or trade name is always going to be better. In some cases it certainly is. So do your homework. Don't take one side of the fence or the other and just say, I'll never change, I'll never do anything different from that. Educate yourself, learn from the people in your state that perhaps do the testing, and see what you can find out. And I think you'd be a lot better off and be able to take advantage of opportunities that are out there. That being said, the basic manufacturers have a pretty long and proven track record, and if that helps you sleep better at night, maybe that's where you ought to stay. So with that said, honey, I cut my finger. Would you bring me a cotton swab, an adhesive bandage, and a facial tissue? And at the same time, it hurts a little bit, so bring me some acetaminophen or ibuprofen. Thanks a lot. Hope that helps. Remember, generics, trade names, get some information on before you make a decision. Talk to you again next time.